It was just past midnight as I walked down the road. I might have been a bit tipsy, as I had been drinking since about 6. We had just closed a deal on the Tanner account and were celebrating. I was not drunk enough to hinder my walking, though. I had gotten a bit cold, even though it was still early autumn. I walked quietly along, thinking of my day ahead and how I shouldn't have stayed so late. There was a light mist covering my way. As I approached the woods, I noticed a figure up ahead about 50 yards away. Even in the mist, it was visible. I guessed that it was about 10 feet tall and had a slight bluish glow. It was still too dark to make out exactly what it was, but I had never seen anything to compare it to. I stopped dead in my tracks and started slowly to back my way down the road. It just stood there watching me and then let out a scream that sounded like 15 trumpets all at once. The noise was ear-splitting. I turned in my terror and ran as fast as I could. I did not look back to see if it was following me. There was a light ahead. The light was from the house on the corner just past the little grocery store. I flew as fast as my legs could carry me towards the house. I ran and ran, but seemed to never get any closer. I was wondering what is happening and why am I stuck here? My legs felt like jelly. The light seemed to be getting farther and farther away. This thing had a hold on me. I was stuck in place. Suddenly, everything was pitch black. It was so dark, I could not see my hands. I felt like I didn't even have a body. There was a light starting to come into my vision. It was a soft, glowing purple-blue light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at the same time. I couldn't breathe. My chest was moving, but nothing was going in or out of my lungs. I felt light and weightless. I realized then that I was being moved up towards the light. I was thinking, what the heck is happening? I blacked out at that moment. The next day was a Wednesday. I woke up at 7 in the morning to the screech of my alarm clock. I remembered having a weird dream about walking on a road. I was not sure what road. I was not sure why I had been walking down the road alone. There was also some light, I vaguely remembered. Dreams are strange, I thought to myself. Upon entering the kitchen, I got my morning cup of coffee ready and sat down to enjoy the hot, bitter taste as I sat watching the birds out of my window. They were enjoying the day already and singing about how good it was. I was not feeling their happiness. I felt disconnected and strange. After I finished the coffee, I went in to take my shower before I got dressed. Something was different, but I couldn't tell what. I didn't remember buying that brand of soap. Getting older, I thought to myself. I showered and dressed quickly to get to work in time by 8:30. It was about a 20-minute drive to get to the office just off of Market Street, and I had to walk back to my car first. I got to the office at about 15 minutes past 8 and parked in my usual spot near the back of the lot. Being a junior employee gave you a bit of extra exercise. As I walked to the building and got closer, I noticed there was a new door installed. Nice, I thought to myself. I then noticed that the signage was different than yesterday. It did not look new, though. The door looked a bit used as well. I walked on into the front hall, but something was off. The pictures looked different, and the front desk was not the same. As I stood there just looking around, a young woman came out to sit at the desk. But it was not Caroline. She told me good morning like she knew me, but I did not know her. I just told her good morning and introduced myself. She looked at me strangely. Odd, I thought. What happened to Caroline? She was just here yesterday afternoon and had not said anything about leaving. She had not attended the drinks get-together, but that was not unusual for her. I walked on back to my office, but now I was really thrown for a loop. The entire office was changed. The pictures on the wall were not the same. The desk was more ornate with a high-backed leather chair. What is going on? I thought. Hi, Jim. A man walking down the hallway was telling me hello and calling me Jim. Who is Jim, I wondered. It was then I saw the sign on the door, Jim Holloway, CFO. Is that my name? Who's that man? Where am I? I'm just a junior accountant. What in the hell is happening? I turned and walked back out into the parking lot. I walked slowly to my car in a daze and got in the driver's seat. I just sat there in shock. Nothing was the same, not even me. Maybe that was not a dream last night. Maybe something really happened to me. As I sat there wondering what was going on, the man that had spoken to me came out to check on me. His name, I discovered, was Tom. I know that because he said, Jim, are you okay? It's me, Tom. Tom who? I thought to myself. Who is Tom? I have never seen this man before in my life. I told him, yes, I think that I am. Just a bit dizzy today. I think I need to go back to the house. I thought I would be okay, but I am not feeling 100% or even 80%. He looked concerned, but sort of chuckled at that. He said, "Go home and rest today. See how it goes tomorrow." I agreed and then left the parking lot. As I drove towards the edge of town to my house, I realized just how much else seemed off. Some of the shops had different names than normal. Some of the houses seemed slightly changed. As I arrived at the house, I began to wonder about the prior night's events. How drunk was I last night? I remember walking home since wasn't too far from the pub to my house, but I sort of forgot getting into the house. That is not normal for me to just black out. I walked into the front hall and removed my jacket and shoes and sat down on the sofa. Maybe a nap might make me feel better, I thought. After a bit, I dozed off to sleep. I woke up and it was dark again outside. The house was completely dark as I had not turned on any lamps when I arrived. The house felt cold and strange. I quickly turned on the lamp next to the sofa on the end table. Everything seemed as it normally was, but I then remembered the events of the morning and began to question what had happened. The world had completely turned upside down or not. Not really upside down, just a bit wonky. My name was different on the door, though. What was that about? Am I not me anymore? Was all of that just a dream in a dream? I got up and changed into some jeans and a t-shirt and went into the kitchen to fix a sandwich and a cup of tea. It is difficult to think on an empty stomach. All I had was a bit of ham and Swiss with some bread left over. That sounded okay, considering I'd not had a chance to get any shopping done with all of the work I'd been putting in lately. 15 minutes later, and I was sitting on the couch eating my sandwich and sipping my hot tea when there was a knock at my door. I did not want to deal with anyone right now. I luckily had shut my curtains when I woke up in the dark so that they could not see into the house. I looked out of a slit in the curtain and could see someone standing there, but I couldn't tell who it was. It appeared to be a tall man wearing all black, including one of those old fedoras like men more in the 40s and 50s. He started knocking, more loudly this time, and called my name. My normal name, Sean Calloway. "Sean, open the door. I know you're in there," he was saying. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole, and to my astonishment, the man looked like me. He had the exact same color of blue eyes, exact hair color and cut, the same jawline and nose. I jumped back and fell onto the stairs. How can this be? Who is this person that is my doppelganger? He must have heard my commotion because he began pounding harder on the door. I grabbed my jacket and quickly put on my shoes. I ran into the back, through the kitchen and out the back door. There is a path through the forest from my house back to another neighborhood just behind mine. I ran down the path as fast as I could without tripping on a root or running into branches. My breathing was erratic and shallow as I was running faster than I think I ever had. When I came out into someone's backyard, I snuck around the side of the house and onto the road. I began walking more normally so that I would not attract attention. When I got to the next crossroad, I turned right away from my neighborhood and walked about 2 miles until I got to a convenience store. I went in and got a candy bar and drink to replenish myself. I hope I acted okay, but I think the store clerk may have gotten a little spooked. I called for a cab and went out front to wait, letting him hear me calling a cab so that hopefully he would not call the police or something. I thought that the authorities might be in on this somehow. I waited almost half an hour until the car pulled up. It was a standard cab with the numbers and company name of Metro Cab on the side of the car. Somewhat reluctantly, I got into the car. I was still unsure if somehow whomever was after me may have intercepted the call I had made for the cab company to pick me up. I told the driver to take me to the airport. We had a small commuter airport that would be able to take me to the nearest city. When I got to the municipal airport, I bought a ticket to the city. I won't say which one, as I don't want to give you too much information as to where I'm from. The flight was somewhat bumpy, but otherwise uneventful. We landed safely, and I made my way to another cab station there at the airport and grabbed a ride into the city to get to the train. The next train ran in 20 minutes, so I waited anxiously until it arrived. I made my way onto the train and sat at the back so that I could see anyone coming on the car from the front and hopefully be at least somewhat hidden from anyone entering from the back. I thought that at least I would have the advantage of seeing them as they came in so that I could have the advantage should they see me and react. The ride into the nearest town was an hour and a half. I had chosen this town because I had a friend that had a small cabin on a pond that he never used. It had belonged to his uncle and was left to him when his uncle had passed. He rarely had time to come down to use it, so I knew it would be empty. I had a little snack food I had gotten at the convenience store. It would have to do for now. Maybe there might be some unexpired canned goods at the cabin. I hoped. I didn't want to risk being seen in this town until I had a chance to check out the area. The cabin was about a 3-mile walk from the train station, which took me about an hour to walk. When I got there, I saw that the shutters were closed and of course the house was locked. I looked around for the key. I remembered him saying something about a statue in the back garden. I found the statue of a gnome and sure enough the key was tucked into the bottom of it. Once inside, I settled in and tried to get warm in a blanket on the couch. I didn't want to risk smoke being seen from the chimney. As the night started to settle, it was getting really cold, so I looked around and saw there was a gas space heater in the bedroom, thankfully. Hopefully there was enough propane in the tank to work for a couple of nights. The heat was enough to carry into the living room and kitchen area, thankfully. I sat back on the couch and drank a glass of water from the tap as I ate a sandwich I had from the store. Hopefully it would not make me feel sick. I could not afford to be throwing up or worse right now. I had only one small lamp on, so as not to draw attention, even though the shutters were still closed. There might be a chance that a little light might show through the crack. I picked up my phone and looked for information about doppelgangers and possible alien abduction in our area. What else could that light have been last night? Something took me and now I am here, but not me, but I feel like me. I did not use the usual search engine on my phone and loaded another that would not have a tendency to give out information. I wish I had a burner phone so that mine could not be traced. I had turned off the phone when I left the house and had just turned it on to look up information. Hopefully that few minutes would be safe. Around midnight, I decided I needed to get some rest, so I lay down on the couch and closed my eyes. All I could see was that face, the face of me looking at the door and knocking on my door with what appeared to be my hands. Have I been replaced, or have I replaced someone else? Do I even look like I looked before? I couldn't remember what I looked like before, only what I look like now. I had no photos in the house, but my driver's license had the same image as I saw in the mirror. That could be changed too, though. I finally fell asleep and woke to the sun shining through the cracks in the shutters. Everything was quiet and still except for a few crows crying outside. I quickly got up and fixed a cup of tea and had a chocolate chip muffin from the convenience store. My plan was to stay one more night at least until I could figure out where to go. What good would it do to go anywhere? Anyway, for that matter, is this even my friend's house anymore? Was I going to find someone coming in and have me arrested for breaking and entering? I just sat on the couch, trying to think of what I could do. Do I just return and pretend like nothing happened? Maybe nothing did happen. Maybe I was just having some sort of break. Maybe I had lost my mind. My car was back at home 2 hours away, and I had no other transport other than the train from here without renting a car. I didn't want to draw attention to myself by doing that. As I sat there trying to figure out my next move, I heard a car approaching from the main road down the lane to the house. I could barely see out of the shutters, but the crack allowed me some view of the lane. It was a dark, blue, small car, but I could not see the plates from my angle. Someone got out and started walking around, but it was not the man that had come to my house. This was a shorter man with thick grey hair and thick eyebrows. He wore an overcoat and grey trousers. As I was watching him, he looked straight at me. He knew that I was there. I fumbled back and gathered my things in case I had to run. I continued to watch him, but he just got back in his car and left. I was confused, but I knew I had to leave there. I couldn't take the road back to the train station, though. Again, I was forced into the woods behind the cabin. However, I did not have the advantage of knowing the area as I had at home. I climbed out the back window in case he was watching and placed the key back under the statue. I then made my way quickly to the edge of the forest and stepped into the dark and overgrown surroundings. The trees were losing some of the leaves, but there were a lot of evergreens as well, giving extra shade. Also extra cover, thankfully. I was thankful I had changed when I got home yesterday, into jeans and sneakers, and was not wearing work clothes. This was going to be a trek. I figured if I could circle around behind the train station, maybe I could make sure it was clear before I approached the ticket booth. I walked about 20 yards to the right of the house through the woods. keeping far enough into the trees so that I would not be seen. I had started back towards the town when I heard the car pull up again. I could not see the house from where I was, though. I could hear two men talking to each other quietly. I froze in place, hoping they could not hear me as well. If I moved, they might hear the leaves under my feet crunch. After a few minutes, I heard glass break and the front door being kicked in. I figured they came into the house from the front and back. A couple of seconds passed, and I heard them yelling, and then one left in the car and the other started towards the woods. I ran away from town and the house until I got to a clearing that appeared to be some sort of farm for cattle or sheep. I didn't want to enter the clearing and possibly be seen by either whomever was chasing me or the farmer. I was stuck there. I could not go back, and I could not move forward either. My only option was to turn back at an angle and run towards town, but as far as I could from the cabin. I began making my way backwards towards, I hoped, town. I walked for about an hour until I came up behind a neighborhood and could see the train tracks across the road from the houses. I still did not dare go to the train station, though. I thought that the best to do would be to seek shelter until hopefully they gave up and left. I hid in a shed behind a little white house, hoping no one would come out to get anything. It was a weekday, so maybe they would be at work. I stayed for about 2 hours. I guess I was still afraid to turn on my phone to check the time since they were onto me. I guessed they had figured out where I was from my phone last night. After a while, I left the shed and put the phone back into the woods under some wood and leaves and started walking toward the tracks, but hung back behind bushes to look before I came up to the station. There was no one anywhere near there except for someone working at the ticket booth, and I could not see any car that looked like that one earlier. I quickly walked to the booth and got a ticket for the next train, which would be another 20 minutes, and then stepped into the restroom to hide. When the train arrived, I looked carefully around the corner and quickly stepped out and boarded. I sat again at the back so that I could see anyone getting on. I decided to get off early at the next stop so that if they did find out about my ticket, they would think I was going further down the line. I waited a couple of towns and then exited through the back of the train car onto the platform. Looking round the area seemed okay. I wondered if I was being too paranoid. I had ditched my phone, so they could not trace me now. I went into the local coffee shop for a sandwich and a coffee. The barista took my order and I paid her in cash. I then sat in the back of the shop at a small 2-seater table and waited for my order. I had not eaten since the night before at the cabin and was very hungry at this point. What am I to do now? I wondered. Try to just wander around until I run out of cash. That wouldn't work. My name was called, or at least the name I gave them, and I got my order and devoured the sandwich. I then sat, sipping the coffee as I thought of a plan. I decided I would backtrack to home and try to figure out what had happened. They wouldn't suspect I would come back, I thought. I bought a ticket on the next train back north. At least I would not have to pay for a room. I could just rest on the train. I would have about 6 hours more or less to get back. Of course, there were stops along the way as well. I had only made it about 300 miles away. When I arrived in my town, I scanned my eyes outside to check before getting off the train. I then looped around at the next intersection behind the tracks and travelled back through the woods. The back door was still unlocked from when I had left, but was secured. It was good to be home, even though I wasn't sure it was a home anymore. I went into the bedroom for a nap after a quick shower. When I awoke, it was getting light outside again, and I could see the shape of someone sitting next to me. It was me and the other man that I had seen at the cabin. My other me told me to not be alarmed and that he needed to explain something. I was woozy and could not get up to fight, so I was forced to listen. I think I was injected with something because I was unable to move. "Prepare yourself," he said. The night I had seen the bluish-purple light, I was taken over to the other side, as we say, passed on, taking the dirt nap. However, it was not my time to go yet, and I was sent back to this world. Mistakes were made. Unfortunately, I was sent to the wrong version of my world. More mistakes were made. He was then sent to my place in the other world. He was the actual me in this world. All of the others in the other universes were also affected, although to a lesser extent. They experienced things we would call déjà vu. Really, nothing too intense. By he and I swapping worlds, we had caused an earthquake, for lack of a better word. That earthquake had rippled into other realities. Granted, we didn't make the first mistake of dying at the wrong time or being sent back to the wrong place. He had gone back through the light already and had emerged here. It was risky. He told me to come to me because if we accidentally touched, it would be much, much worse. They thought that it would be more convincing to me to go and do this, however, if I had seen him. The man with him, it turns out, was a programmer, or angel if you prefer the term. He had come to assist and oversee the reversal. In order to fix this problem, I had to die again and re-enter our correct realities. I thought it might be a weird way to kill me, and nothing more. Maybe someone had given me a psychedelic drug and caused all of this hallucination. If it was just a hallucination, I wanted out of it, though. Maybe by doing this I could be free to get back to my life. Yes, I was just a junior accountant and had to walk across the large parking lot to work, but it was my life. I could change it in my own time and in my own way. So, that's my story. I didn't have to die in the normal way, just go back in through the light, as I had before. This time, knowing what it was, though. Here I am, sitting in my house alone. I drive in the same old Toyota Corolla I have had for 10 years. I drink the same inexpensive coffee, eat the same turkey and Swiss for lunch most days. I could have been CFO and driven that Mercedes I saw in the parking lot at the bar when I went to get my car that day. I guess cars move over as well. I don't know how it all works, but I am glad to be back in my own skin, doing my thing. One day, with my own accomplishments, I will have a different life, but it will be my life.
I hope that you enjoyed this story. I am Mel Beauxbeaux. I wrote it in May of 2024, but life gets on and I have not pursued writing much since. I hope to release a few more I have tucked back and begin again to write.